But it all really started with, singing songs and playing guitar with my father when I was, 6, 7 years old. That's where the whole story started, and that's taken me through jumping from country to country, city to city, and reinventing myself quite a few times.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mind Shift Show. Today, we're talking about the power of belief and what it means to believe in our dreams, believe in opportunities, and watch how the universe opens up doors in ways that we could have never imagined. I have an extraordinary guest that I met at a recent conference in Denver, and I was so excited and inspired by his story and journey that I wanted to connect and share this with the world. His name is Jorge Costa, and he will be talking about his journey, what it took to make it happen, and the magic that has unfolded for him, as it does for each and every one of us, to ensure that we continue to move forward in ways that we could have never imagined. Jorge, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Rocío. It's great to reconnect with you, and very excited to have this conversation.
Thank you so much, Jorge. Now, you and I were talking about like the power of belief. Give us a bit of a background on you, and then we'll tap into the power of belief and the magic that has unfolded for you.
Okay, I think I'm going to reverse engineer it. So,
Okay.
I'm currently an educator at Arizona State University. I'm assistant professor, but I got there through being in the music industry as a record producer and sound engineer for more than 20 years now. But it all really started with, singing songs and playing guitar with my father when I was, 6, 7 years old. That's where the whole story started, and that's taken me through jumping from country to country, city to
Mm.
city, and reinventing myself quite a few times.
Wow, that sounds amazing. It sounds amazing. It sounds like you've been at this for a very long time and having a really fun time at doing that.
I have no complaints. I've been able
No.
to make a living in something I love, for my entire professional career, which is it's really a blessing and something I'm very grateful for.
Wonderful. Now let's tap into that magic of your story. I know when you were sharing your story with me, you said the world must hear this. So let's begin there.
Yeah, I was born in Mexico. My mom is from Mexico. My father is Chilean. So I think, from the get-go, I already had this. I would say my identity didn't really feel locked to a specific geographical location. So grew up, I think, until I was roughly 8 years old in Mexico.
Mm.
Then we moved to Chile,
Wow.
which is where I spent, the rest of, my teenage years. Went to school, and I went to music college,
Mm.
which was, I think, the first, I would say, big step into my dreams. Because when I was in high school, my teacher's hope was that I would become a lawyer.
Mm.
Uh, which I think that the world is grateful I did not do that. I don't know. I was actually really good at arguing, which was a little dangerous. So, thankfully, I had always loved music. I had been playing music since I was 7, 8 years old, singing with my dad and my mom, and singing duets. And during high school, I would go to music festivals, participate in competitions and things of that nature. Had a couple bands. Now, at that point in Chile, the idea of making a living in the music industry was not only kind of crazy, but also, from my perspective, very limited. It seemed to me that, it was either you are on the stage, in the limelight, and if you do well, you're happy. If you don't, you're not.
Mm.
Uh, and I started realizing, being on stage was not really what I wanted. So I actually took a year off at the end of high school. and I started working in a school in Brazil.
Mhm.
And I wanted to take that time, amongst other things, to figure out if I wanted to be a lawyer or if I had, I would say, what it took to be a musician. And this really was not about talent, is I knew that if I wanted to be in music, I had to be ready to fight a lot harder.
Mm,
Going to law school would have been kind of the easy road for me.
mhm,
But in this case, I had really no professional musicians in my family. I
mm,
really had no references, so it was unknown territory.
mhm,
Um, and after returning from Brazil, I found a school in Chile that had this major in composition and arrangements,
mhm,
focused on popular music, but really coming from more of a conservatory structure.
mm.
Um, and that was my first step into following my dreams.
Wow, that's amazing because you didn't have anyone in your family that was a musician. People saw, your teacher saw that, hey, maybe you're extraordinary at this. Maybe you should become an engineer or become an attorney in your case. Like a lot of people that come to me like, you should have been an engineer, you should be like this teacher or doctor or whatever. And then people are unfulfilled. They get to a point in their life that they're unfulfilled. And you followed your passion. Like you said, the world thanks you for you following your passion because here you are being able to shine your magic and share your magic with the world. So, what happened after that? You found this institution of higher ed.
Yes,
Mhm,
and I was there for about 5 years. My experience there was wonderful. I was fortunate to find a couple incredible mentors, and I was growing and expanding, and went from writing songs to learning how to write pieces for symphonic bands and string orchestras, and get some pieces premiered, and which was incredibly exciting. And towards the end, and as I was approaching graduation, I had this crazy dream, which was to attend Berklee College of Music in Boston,
mm, wow.
which, for any musician who is not focused on classical music, uh, it was the dream. And it was the impossible dream, really. I think before I went to Berkeley, I think only two people from Chile had attended Berkeley in its history.
Oh,
So
wow.
it so happened that one of them was one of my mentors.
Mm,
And the other one is someone I actually got the chance to collaborate during my last year in college. And both of them encouraged me to apply. Because
mhm,
again, when I say it was an impossible dream, part of the me thinking it was impossible is I was not even thinking about applying. It was, so expensive, it was impossible. I had this feeling that I think has changed in Latin America, but I think, if you go 25 years back, we always assumed that everything in the US was better and everybody was more talented. And, sadly, that was kind of the vision we had.
mm,
Um, Thankfully, these two people told me, look, I understand where you come from, but I know you, I've been working with you. I think you can make it happen. So I ended up applying for a scholarship, because without a scholarship, there was no way I could afford it. And to my surprise, I ended up getting the scholarship, enough to make it happen, got accepted, and didn't look back. Packed my bags, got rid of everything I had, and moved to Boston.
wow. Amazing, amazing. When we think about those moments that change our life, that moment, that soul moment that you said, okay, I'm going to do this. Let me move forward with whatever it is that I'm doing, right? In your case, it was music. And how fascinating how the universe responds in ways that we could have never imagined. And I do hear that at times that people think like the US is the only place, right? It is the top, the cream of the crop. And when we see it all over the world, there's so many extraordinary educational opportunities that we don't even have in the US, right? The talent that comes out of those institutions around the world is also extremely valuable. And in some cases, things that we don't even have here and account for that. So, speaking of that power of belief, now you have that belief in yourself. You manifested, magically manifested a scholarship for yourself. And then you get to what happens next? Now you're in the States.
Yeah, I'm in the States, landed in the middle of winter in Boston, which
Boy,
if you've spent any time, it's
brutal.
I did not know the weather could be that rough. Let me put it that way. My first walk to the building, once I landed in Boston with my best friend, who incredibly enough, we both got the same scholarship. We applied
Wow.
together, got the same scholarship, which was huge because going there with your best friend as a support network makes an incredible difference. Um, and my first walk to campus, I remember reading, in the news this weather alert that it was going to be so cold that you shouldn't be outside. And, I started thinking, well, they're clearly overreacting. I'm just going to put a coat on. It's beautiful outside, it's all white. It just snowed. I mean, how bad can it be? And by the time I got to the building, I couldn't feel my ears. And, and
I'm
I
sure they
went
feel
to
like they're
the
gonna fall off.
no, literally, somebody told me, I went to, I think, the infirmary or something because it started hurting. And they told me, look, you had spent five more times outside, you would have lost your ears, which put things in perspective.
Wow, wow.
Yeah,
When they say it's cold, do not ignore the
exactly.
local weather forecast.
It was really, really cold. But the experience was just amazing because all of a sudden I was surrounded by thousands of the most talented musicians from around the globe,
Wow.
and that changed my trajectory in life, absolutely.
Wow, that sounds amazing. It sounds like it completely shifted the way that you do things. Now, in a prior interview, although it was a conversation, I was in
Uh-huh.
because I was fascinated. So tell me, you talked about all of a sudden you get these amazing opportunities, and one of which leads you back into Mexico.
Yeah, and this was, we have to fast forward, but yes, I had been so after I finished Berkeley. I moved to LA. Back then, I had a 1-year visa, which you get as a foreign student who graduates from a college in the U.S. You would get this 1-year visa.
Mhm,
That's kind of designed to just keep you around enough to spend a little more money and then kick you out.
mhm,
They call it practical training, but in practice, usually, it lasts that year and then you're out. I was fortunate enough to get involved in some projects with some visibility with big name artists within my first year of graduation, which was very unusual. And that got me recommendation letters and some accolades that allowed me to apply for an O1 visa. And that allowed me to stay in the US. So I, stayed in
mhm.
LA as a freelancer, record producer, sound engineer for 10 years.
Wow.
And at some point in my life where I was kind of questioning what's next, what do I want to do next? I had just gone through a divorce. I had to close down my recording studio. This was, around 2008, financial crisis.
Mhm,
Things are not looking good for most people.
mhm.
Uh, and I was kind of questioning what I wanted to do with my life. And I meet this incredible woman from Mexico that we were introduced through Facebook, through a friend that we had in common. And, a really beautiful friendship started.
Mm,
Went to Mexico to spend some time with my family and get to meet in person with her. Her name is Alma. And we just connected really deeply. We started, a relationship that started long distance. And at some point, I had this moment of I think, a realization that I just couldn't be without her. And basically packed my bags and moved back to Mexico,
And
kind of
what
out of
will guide
on a
you?
whim. So
Right? Beautiful, beautiful. So then you spend the next few years in Mexico.
yeah. So at the beginning, this was, let me see, 2016, 2017. And I had, my own version of being bi-coastal. So I was living in Mexico, but also working a lot in LA. I still had my clientele, so I would fly to LA a couple times a month, mostly to do recording sessions, and then I would go back to Mexico and do mixing and production. And while I was in this process, a friend of mine uh, who was teaching at a small music college in Mexico City called me up to catch up. And, while having tacos and a beer, one thing led to another in the conversation. And he basically told me that they were looking for somebody to take over one of his classes in this music college. And he told me, look, I think you'd be great at it. And if you're interested, look, you taught me everything I know. So if I tell them you don't need an interview, you probably just need to say, I want to do this. And, you'd be starting a week from now.
Mhm. Fast pace.
Fast paced. And, I started thinking, well, I moved from Mexico to Chile, Chile to Brazil, Brazil back to Chile, then
Wow.
to Boston, then to LA, then back to Mexico. And I did not die in the process. I guess I can do this, right? So I took the class, and I absolutely fell in love
Mm,
with being an educator. It's one of those things where I think somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew I always wanted to do at some point, and there was part of me that always, until I decided to try it, always felt I still needed a little more experience. I still needed,
mhm.
I kind of felt I was maybe not ready, or I didn't have enough to share with students. Thankfully, life proved me wrong, and that first semester with one class turned into four classes the following semester, and within probably a year and a half, the one of the co-founders and director of the school asked me to be kind of the second in command in the school, along with a colleague, and help him, not just teach, but help him run the school, which was something I had, again, zero experience in. And I ended up spending 4 years teaching there, including the pandemic, which is it's a story in on its own,
Right.
obviously.
Most
But
definitely.
yeah, but also that was another thing that um, I think was a pivotal moment in terms of the way I looked at education and the power of education and my commitment to it as well.
Wow, that's so fascinating. It's like you fast forward, in one moment you're in one location, the next moment there's an opportunity over a meal, which happens all of the time when we're receptive to it, when we can actually hear what people are saying. You're extraordinary for this. And at times we doubt ourselves. And continuing with the power of belief, that will take you through anything that can potentially happen along the way, as long as we stay focused and we continue to believe within ourselves that it's possible and probable for us. And then, so where are you at today? What is it that you're doing specifically today?
Aha. I'm still having trouble defining it, and I'll bring just kind of one word that might explain why I'm having trouble defining it, which is AI. If we had had this conversation 2 years ago, I would have told you, I'm an assistant professor at Arizona State University in the popular music program, and I am running the producer engineer specialty. So I'm teaching everything that happens in the recording studio, recording, mixing, production. That had been my focus, along with continuing my career as an independent record producer and sound engineer.
Mhm.
But a couple years ago, I started exploring the intersection with artificial intelligence.
Mm.
Initially, it was just a little bit of curiosity around AI and music creation, music production, uh, which honestly, my first interaction with it was incredibly disappointing and also felt like a big relief.
Mm.
Because, and I joke with this that my version of Terminator has an electric guitar and a microphone, not a machine gun. So when I started thinking machines are going to replace musicians, I'm like, I'm so happy this is terrible. And then it was not terrible, it was just bad. And then it was mediocre, and then it was pretty decent. And at this point, I had connected with a friend, now a good friend of mine, Dave Toole.
Mhm.
Dave is an entrepreneur in the tech sector. He's developed his career in Silicon Valley, and I had been teaching him music production. We
Mm.
got into exploring AI and kind of playing with the possibilities. And all of a sudden, I had this again, one of these aha moments where I realized that teaching, and I don't know if teaching is the right word, but exposing my students to this technology was a responsibility,
Mm.
because I started seeing the acceleration of the technology and realized, well, even if right now it's just mediocre, within a year it's going to be pretty good, and within five, and it's been even faster than I imagined. So
Mhm.
right now, I find myself in this very interesting intersection, because I'm still, teaching what I used to teach. I'm still making records. I'm still working on
Mhm.
other people's music and helping them shine.
Mhm.
But now AI has kind of landed in the center of this,
Mhm.
and I'm taking a deep dive not only in how to use these technologies in music, but also now become part of a think tank that is, it's cross generational, is multidisciplinary, and we are exploring what are the consequences of this technology, and how can we do it right.
Mm.
We started thinking of social media as a parallel, and clearly we missed the mark.
Mm.
Social media could have been this absolutely wonderful thing, and we've weaponized it, and now we have youth that is dealing with self-esteem problems, with
Right.
depression, and whether we want to recognize it or not, social media has a lot to do with it. Um, so when we think of AI being, just immensely powerful, there's a huge responsibility in integrating
Mm.
artificial intelligence as a tool that benefits humanity.
Mm.
And that's, I put it through the lens of creativity and music and education. But my exploration, especially within the think tank, is we have to work cross discipline, because this is impacting everybody.
Mm. Wow, I love what you said, and especially that whole social responsibility, because we can doesn't mean we should, right? That we must be responsible for what we're creating and adapting into, as this is the new wave. This is the time in this point in time, space reality. I would also invite us to take a look at the opportunities that it brings to people who love music and may not be as talented. And I think AI gives us a voice, an opportunity to express ourselves in ways that traditional uh, music wouldn't have been able to do for all. And so, what an amazing opportunity. Now, Jorge, as we come to a close in today, what are your wishes? What are some tips, wishes, insights that you would love people to take away with them?
Cool. First, trust your instincts, which I know it sounds cheesy, and it sounds like I probably just read it in in a sticker this morning. But but it's true. Trust your instincts. Also, listen to the people that know you. I would say most, if not every single important decision in my life, there was also somebody telling me, do it, don't hesitate. And when I hesitated, they were wonderful enough to tell me, don't, what do you have to lose? Which is true. It's, if you try something and you fail, okay, at least you tried. But
Again.
if you don't try, you will never get anything done. So believing in yourself, trusting your instincts, uh, and be grateful.
Oh, oh. I love that, the power of gratitude, trusting yourself, the connection with your own internal wisdom helps you move in ways that you could have never imagined. Now, Jorge, as we're here, is there one word that would define your life?
Might be reinvention.
Oh, I love that. Reinvention. Beautiful. And
Yeah, I find myself doing that quite often.
okay, and that's the power of it. Nobody told us that we were going to have to reinvent ourselves. Nobody gave us the skills or the tools to understand that reinvention is part of life and that we get to move through that. Fantastic. Jorge, thank you so much for being here today with us. I'm really excited about people viewing this video over and over again.
My pleasure, Rocio. Thank you so much for this conversation, and thanks for having me as a guest.
My pleasure. And to our guest and to the MindShift guest, I invite you to take a look at this, listen to it over and over again. There are so many hidden gems that once you tap into, you will see what the power of belief is all about for yourself. And it's about doing. That's the magic. I have clients that come to me like, Rocio, things didn't start shifting until I started doing. And that's the part of belief as well. We believe and then we take action. We believe and we take another action. So I invite you to take 5 minutes, do three things that will move you forward always. As you leave this conversation, even replay the video, listen to it again, and then know that you're going to take 5 minutes to do three things that continue to move you forward. And until the next time, I invite you to continue living your life on your terms and create your version of a happy, healthy, and fulfilling life.